In this brief video, I'm going to illustrate how to add and subtract decimal numbers. Let's take a look at the first example where I'm adding 5 and 3 10,000ths plus 6 and 78 hundredths plus 4 thousandths. The first step is I'm going to stack all those numbers, all three of them, in a column just like we used to do when we were dealing with whole numbers, but I'm going to do so that the decimal point is lined up with all three numbers. So I'm lining the decimals up, and then the second thing I'm going to do is as I stack the numbers, I'm going to pad any numbers that need extra zeros so that the decimal length is the same for all three numbers. And then now I'm going to put the 4 thousandths down below, and I'm going to pad that with an additional 0. So notice that all the lengths of the decimals are the same. And then now we just ignore the decimal point. In fact, we can go ahead and put the decimal point down below just to make sure that we don't forget it. And we add the numbers as though they were whole numbers, one column at a time, going from right to left. So 3 plus 0 is 3 10,000ths. 0 plus 0 plus 4 is 4 thousandths. 0 plus 8 plus 0 is 8 hundredths. 0, 7, and 0 is 7 tenths. 6 plus 5 plus 0 is 11. And my final answer is 11 and 7,843 10,000ths. Let's take a look at the second addition example. Again, I'm going to rewrite the numbers. Notice again I'm going to do so by lining the decimal points up for the four numbers. So the next number is 3 and 4 tenths, but again I'm going to pad it with some zeros so that it's the same length as the preceding number. Then 65 and 35 hundredths. I'm going to pad that with 2 zeros. And then lastly 100 and 6 thousandths, and I'm going to pad that with an additional 0. And then I'm going to add them all together as though they were whole numbers. Again, I'm going to go ahead and put the decimal point for my final result ahead of time just to remind myself that that goes there. 10 thousandths column, 4 plus 3 zeros is 4 10,000ths. 5 plus 6 thousandths and 2 zeros is 11 thousandths, but I got to carry one of those into the hundredths column. 8, 1 is 9, plus 5 is 14. Carry the 1 into the tenths place. 7, 8, 12, and 3 is 15 tenths. Carry 1 into the ones place. 9, 1 is 10, plus 3 plus 5 is 18. Carry 1 into the tens column. 8, 1 is 9, plus 6 is 15. Carry 1 in the hundreds column, and I get 258 and 5,414 10,000ths as my final answer. Let's move on to take a look at subtraction. Essentially, the steps are exactly the same as what we just did for addition. I'm going to stack the numbers, so I'm going to stack 34 and 7 hundredths, and I'm going to stack below that 6 and 18 hundredths. If I had needed to pad either of the two numbers to make the decimal lengths the same, I would have done so. In this case, I didn't have to. And then we just go ahead and subtract the numbers as though they were whole numbers using the Austrian method of subtraction that we've learned about. So I'm going to go ahead and do so. I try to take 8 from 7. I cannot do so, so I need to borrow. And I track my borrow down below in the tenths place. Now in the hundredths column, I have 17 minus 8 is 9 hundredths. Going to the tenths place, I can't subtract from 0, so I need to borrow. And I show the borrow in the ones column as having been moved over to become 10 tenths. So 10 tenths minus 2 of them is going to give me 8 tenths in the tenths place. I need a borrow in the ones place, so I'm going to track the borrow again in the tens column also. 14 minus 6 is 8, minus 1 is 7, and then 3 minus 1 is 2. Remember that just like we did for whole numbers, I could check my work for the subtraction. Let me do so. I'm going to add 6 and 18 hundredths to make sure I would get 34 and 7 hundredths when I add these together. So 9 plus 8 is 17. My carry is automatically shown already from the borrow work I did previously. 8 plus 1 is 9, plus 1 is 10. Again, my carry is automatically shown. 1 plus 7 is 8, plus 6 is 14. My carry is automatically shown. And the addition result is again 34 and 7 hundredths. That concludes our presentation on how to add and subtract decimal numbers.